So welcome to another episode of the Chyrel Macale Cariaga show. And we are live at our special location. We are at the Directors Club at SM Downtown Studio. And we're also live at our UHF Digital Terrestrial Television, that is Channel 51. We are also live at the Aerial or Free Channel 37, live Parasat Cable TV Channel 29, live Jade Cable TV Channel 27 and 28. And we're also live at DEARBC Cable TV Analog Channel 19, Digital Channel 2, Facebook page, live at JAO TV 51 _ official. And of course, we're also live for JAO TV 51 official YouTube channel. And we are the first digital TV in Northern Mindanao. The Department of Labor and Employment is mandated as the primary policy-making, programming, coordinating, and administrative entity of the executive branch of the government in the field of labor and employment. It assumes the primary responsibilities of promoting gainful employment opportunities and optimizing the development and utilization of the country's manpower resources. Advancing workers' welfare by providing for just and humane working conditions in terms of the employment and maintaining industrial peace by promoting harmonious, equitable, and stable employment relations that assure equal protection for the rights of all concerned parties. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on our location today. Let us all welcome the original technical director of the Dolitan. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Jade.
Okay, good afternoon, Ms. Chyrel, and of course, Happy New Year. And good afternoon to all your viewers, followers.
We would like to welcome you. This is actually the first episode and pilot episode of our Chyrel Macale Cariaga show for the year 2022. Today is January 27th, January 7th of 2022. So Sir JB, we are actually going to discuss about a lot of concerns considering about this effect of the economy that has blown since the pandemic period had risen. So within the recovery period of last year's level 2 from level 3, and we were actually noticing that there were a lot of issues concerned about our workforce. One, the unemployment, which is directly hitting all of our unemployed constituents, and now that the recovery of which was given to us under level 2. How are we at the state right now in Region 10 in terms of our workforce and their stability?
Yes, Ms. Chyrel, as we all know, from the start of the COVID, there were many regulations imposed by several government agencies. And
yes,
practically, the purpose of the regulations is to control the spread, meaning exposure of COVID, so that many of the establishments actually were prohibited from opening.
right.
Now, as time goes on, some of these regulations were relaxed, so that yes, the first actually problem then was the closure of establishments.
Yes.
There were closure permanent, there were temporary closure, there were flexible work arrangements, so that the employment of some of our workers were actually lessened. Now, based on the records, of course, we call this one from the Statistics Office. At the start of the early start of the pandemic last March and April, the employment rate actually went down to 88.9% from 95% of the same date in the prior year, meaning 2019. So the plants shut down. Now in 2021, the same year, April 2021, we pick up na siya to 94.5% or accounting to 2.3 million employment. Now, we also monitor the employment from July 20, October, January, actually basically 3 months quarterly. So from July 2020, 94.0% employment rate. Now in October 2020, nag-pick up siya into 94.4%. And then of course in July 2021, 99.5%. practically the same as to the status in the previous prior COVID situation. So basically karon medyo gitaas na
We are actually at the state of recovery.
Yes, yes.
Now, just recently, we already know that in terms of the NCR, there are actually another issue that has been hitting the economy now because of the Omicron variant, and that is affecting the National Capital Region. In fact, it was stated just the latest news from CNN that from 3.5 million of unemployment, it has exceeded to 3.16 last November. So that is going to affect the workforce in NCR, and I think it will escalate through all over the regions of the entire country. So what are we anticipating on that, especially that we are going to anticipate the problem if in case, because we already understand that we are on its course of surging from the 3 positive case that we had in the city, it went to 16. So from the province of it has 6, went to 43. So it has spread like wildfire, and I think this is going to affect our economy again in case if the economy will crash. So within the workforce, what are we trying to prepare them for, and what are our augmentation and in terms of our contingency plans to help the workforce stand and help out in terms of the employment status?
Yes, Chyrel, we pray that it will not reach Region 10 or Cariaga, but of course the department has actually prepared for these contingencies. Yes, in the NCR, the count of COVID positive has rise actually, and the department has actually has been talking actually for the resumption of the camp or the COVID adjustment measures program. If you remember, the department was giving 5,000 for affected workers because of COVID. Now, the NCR actually being in the level 3 now, the department is actually mobilizing for the release of the amount of 5,000 under the camp program for those affected workers. And of course, in Region 10, we are also preparing the system in the processing, but of course, considering we are still in level 2. So there is no signal yet from our central office to prepare for the system in the camp system for the quarantining operation. But we are actually preparing.
Yes, the pandemic is actually, we're actually fighting it on a blind way, because we'll never see when it's going to happen, what's going to strike, and when it's going to surge. But within the trending now that it's coming, and it is vital for all of the agencies involved, especially in the economy itself, has to be prepared and supported by, of course, the LGUs in terms of our difficulties in encountering another problem that have been affecting our workers for the last 2 years. So with that, sir, in preparation, let us just discuss about the 2021 contingency that we have done and the COVID response that we did for our workforce. So what have we done so far, sir?
Yes, first, of course, as I mentioned, we implemented CAMP, or the COVID Adjustment Measures Program last year. And we are very happy to report that for 2021, we were able to release the amount of 5,000 to 103,554 workers in the entire region. The amount is 784 million.
Okay.
For the camp, of course, for the TUPAD, another program of the Department for Employment, Temporary Employment actually, TUPAD, or Tulong Panghanap Buhay para sa mga disadvantaged and displaced workers, we were able to give temporary employment to 139,198 formal and informal sector workers. The amount of this grant or salary is actually around 700,000.
Wow.
And we have also for OFWs or what we call the ACAP, the 10,000 again ayuda or ayuda to 6,959 OFW, returning
Right.
OFW.
Yes, Sir Jay, we also heard that there were employees that have been affected, who's been infected by the COVID-19, and we were able to also help them out because they've missed out in their days of work, and then we have actually given them, you know, this compensation, which they have claimed from the SSS and then to DOLE itself, you know, claiming that they were a COVID victim and they were able to get these benefits.
Yes, if the infection is job-related, we have the Employees Compensation Program under the ECC or Employees Compensation Commission, wherein they are paid of their salary for the loss of income for the 14 days. And aside from loss of income, they received also the amount of 10,000 pesos
I see.
as benefit for
Okay.
having inflicted basta kay work-related.
Yeah, and they were infected in the workplace.
Yes.
Okay, I see that. So getting forward to our clients, especially DOLE is always expecting the worst of the cases, and then if in case this worsens in the next months or in the next months or so, what are we trying to prepare for them in terms of also advising our employers to anticipate on this mode of transition, just in case if the situation worsens.
Yes, Chyrel, actually our main concern is for the employment preservation. Of course, once COVID surged, of course, regulations from IATF, from DOE, of course, global government units will be more strict, so that maybe we'll have to close because of that.
Yes.
We are actually proposing or advising management
Yes.
to implement work from home, so that
So we'll go back to that skeletal kind of
or the
implementation.
flexible work arrangement,
Yeah.
so that people in the workplace will be lessened. So flexible work arrangement, rotation of work, or in fact even temporary closure, not permanent closure, as much as possible. And we have also labor advisories to this effect that once the employer could not actually pay holiday pay in the period of COVID, then we are actually advising management, including the workers, to agree on the terms of payment. Pwede i-delay sa una upon agreement of the worker.
Yes.
Because we have to understand that COVID is not only affecting the workers, the business, and of course
Yes.
the employer.
Yes, that's right. So everyone is really affected by this because the economy is going to worsen, and then of course the economy will crash, and of course the businesses or the SMEs will also close, and of course with the protection of their employees, and then they will have the option to really close their businesses, and that's going to be affecting a lot of our economy now. So I am just really glad within the report of the DOH that we're actually have achieved the 70% immunity here in Region 10. So we're confident about that, but the thing is, we'll never know. Omicron is more aggressive, and Omicron is going to spread like wildfire. As if they said, it's going to actually infect like 10 times as before, like Delta was 8 times, but now this is 10 times worse than the Delta variant that we're also seeing that it has caused a lot of problems. But now if Omicron is going to worsen as fast as it is, as it's doing now, from 3% to 10%, now that's going to cause us a lot of problems. Now, I'm just really glad commenting that the government is actually on its feet, because we've learned a lot of lessons already, being unprepared for this virus that affected the economy. It's the truth that the reality was anybody was not prepared for this hit. And now that we have learned our lessons from the last 2 years of what had happened and how it impacted our economy, at least we have the idea of how to actually help our economy rise again. So at this point, how was our recovery period from that time with level 2 now? And so with that you being said there's 94% of the rehiring and employment. So we're seeing at the brighter future now, so Jade.
Yes, based on the statistics provided by us. And that is why one of our thrust actually for 2022 is to intensify inspection of the compliance of these protocols, the COVID protocols. So,
Yes.
of course, we have labor inspectors to do that. And this time we will be more strict in ensuring that all the protocols are being complied. Yes, we now have actually penalties for violation of the COVID protocols.
Okay.
It's workers not using face masks, social distancing. So this year we will be more strict to ensure that the workplaces are safe from COVID. But of course, ang approach natin is developmental, not regulatory.
Yes.
Meaning, upon validation and verification that some of the protocols are not complied, of course, we will convince management to comply voluntarily. And in fact, we have other program together with the DOH, BPI, DOP, tourism, of course, the ILG, in the issuance of a safety seal. So, 5
That
agents.
encourages the establishment to actually comply with the safety.
Yes, once they are compliant with the safety protocols against COVID, then we will be issuing a safety seal, meaning they are compliant. And of course, this safety seal will show the public that the management is safe, and of course, it can give confidence to its product.
Right. What is your opinion in terms of the president actually is very strict on the compliance of the vaccination card being presented, and if you are not vaccinated, you are not allowed to go out, or you are advised to stay at home and not go for essentials. Just in case, if you're not vaccinated, then you have to stay home. Now, in that case, here in Region 10, how are you going to implement that in case of if the president gives the order from the AITF to actually implement it with no vaccine card, no enter to establishments as well?
Yes, actually, when IATF Resolution 148B was issued, which actually direct all workers who are working on site to be vaccinated, otherwise they cannot enter the establishment, except when they can present RT-PCR once every 2 weeks. We were actually very happy with the department, regional office, Region 10, talking with
Because that probably would encourage them to really get vaccinated.
Yes, because they will not be allowed to enter the workplace, and of course, the no work, no pay will apply. So that resolution actually, and of course, the pronouncement of our president, directing all to get vaccinated is actually a promotion of safety and health in the workplace.
Yes, not only that you're actually, giving a threat to your workplace as well as your family when you get home. It is very much better to decide to be vaccinated than being unvaccinated.
Yes, we consider it actually as a safety standard. Vaccination in the workplace is safety standard, so that it will help not only the workers, of course, their family, as you have mentioned, and of course, the establishment, the productivity of the establishment. So we are actually encouraging, and in fact, we are directing all workers to get vaccinated already.
Okay, and the penalty of these establishments that are actually not following the strict compliance from the AITF, if you have felt that establishment is not actually complying all of these rules given by the AITF, what is their penalty?
Although the Department Order 198 actually on occupational safety and health standards does not mention the COVID situation, but it falls under all other safety violations in the workplace. So COVID, considering that we have a joint memorandum signed by BPI and DOLE requiring all these safety protocols,
right,
then violation of these protocols can be a ground for this imposition of a penalty. That is 40,000 upon final
40,000
percent,
for the
40,000 per day.
per day.
Per
Oh
day.
my God. That is crazy. So if you don't want to go through all that trouble to be penalized by the Department of Labor and Employment, you better have to comply
That
with
is
that.
upon final order.
Yes. Okay. There are also anticipation for which the Omicron, as it's here already in the country, and if it's going to worsen more, we need to really comply or strict compliance when it comes to health protocols. Now, I'm very sure that the AITF of the region right now is having a meeting in which, well, what are they trying to prepare for, and the worst case scenarios, what are the probably the new implementations of the AITF rulings under our economy, to protect our workforce, and just in case we need to campaign again for this health protocols to be implemented to all our establishments in the region.
Yes, we will be resuming our inspection actually by, I think, January 16.
I see.
And the instruction of actually our central office is to focus on the compliance of the safety protocols under the joint memorandum agreement with DTI and of course DOLE. So that will be our priority field for inspection.
So I see. Some of those that are anticipating on this, especially on this, the Omicron that is already here, we are really hoping that the region is not going to be affected as much as the region, because I know the National Capital Region, there are still a lot of unvaccinated people. Now, in this response with the region, then at least people are really encouraged to have themselves vaccinated. So furthermore, we are going to proceed in 2022. So within that period of time, what are the new directives of the DOLE under the 2022 contingency plans and the plans and remissions, and what are you need to accomplish for this year?
Yeah, basically, since we're still recovering from our unemployment, we have actually, we are now, start of January, we are implementing the SUPAT, our temporary employment, tulong panganak buhay para sa mga disadvantaged or displaced workers. That is one. Second, of course, the inspection for compliance of the safety protocols, and of course, including labor standards and occupational safety and health standards. There are budgets for OFWs program, the Ayuda, the 10,000, and of course the Tabang OFW actually intended for the education of returning OFWs or their dependents. So basically, kada siya na mga program. We will also be implementing the special program for the employment of students for 45 days.
Will that run for the summer period, or when is that going to be implemented, this test?
Actually, throughout the year. It will depend on the establishment applying or the local government units applying for the SPES program. Last year, actually, we encountered several problems in the implementation of SPES because of the regulations. If you can remember, youth aging below 17 were not allowed to go out. And, of course, all other, of course, closure establishments, so that suspend them at least temporarily.
Yeah, I understand that. But the thing is, there are also problems that have been encountered. Like I've read some complaints and some problems that those that we are not going to deny that by the time that our help or camp was about to be availed by all of those employees that are affected by COVID, some were not able to claim. And because, as the DOLE explains, that the budget is such a being run out. And then, are they able to still claim for that in case if they will file, or do we have funds for that just in case they will try to claim it for those who have not been able to claim it?
Yes, it's true. we received actually around 200,000 applications for the campus
Wow.
200,000
Is that the
applicants.
remaining, sir? Is that the remaining or that
No,
implemented?
no, that the applications received.
Oh,
We only
oh.
processed more than 100,000 around.
What? So that's not 100,000 in visit?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yes.
What are we trying to do about
the
that?
applications actually are part of the system, but
So they're already registered? Are they there on the system already? Are they able to claim it and go and check if they're able to get the claim?
well, that will depend on the guidelines that will be given to us by central office if we will resume the count. Because in the NCR right now, actually, during our meeting the other day, the system actually is a new system, not the old one. Dito nakapark ang mga unserved actually ng mga applications. Now there will be a new system that will be used because we were informed that ang tagaan priority will be on the tourism industry. The tourism industry.
I see.
Yes, for now, actually, tourism industry. We were informed. So, it's either they will have another system or they will just call the applications of the workers from the tourism industry and they will just serve it. We still did not receive a guideline for the implementation.
I see. So we are trying to actually have that recall because we have been sent with a lot of complaints about that because they said it was very, very unfair and that they were also blaming the employers for not submitting it in advance and that they were on a delayed notice and that they have submitted that on the later note. That's why the employees were not able to claim all of those. So what are we trying to give them as a remedy for that, sir?
Yes, we actually received complaints as mentioned, and we have verified the complaints, and yes, there were some who were not included in the applications, and of course, considering the shortage of the funds, we could do nothing. Hopefully, this time, if camp will be resumed, then we will have to look to it so that there will be no grievance from
those complaints. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we will actually have another guest with us today, and we have actually anticipated for her to come in a later time because she's actually very busy with a visitor at hand in her office. But the NEDA, as you all know, is the country's premier social and economic development planning and policy coordinating body, primarily responsible for the formulating, continuing, coordinated, and fully integrated social and economic policies, plans, and programs. Now, at this time, for year 2022, we would like to anticipate what does our economy stands for and where are we at now as of this time. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Regional Director of NEDA 10. Hey, good afternoon. We were discussing about the workforce, and there were a lot of problems that we encountered in the last years because of the pandemic had stricken our economy very badly, and now the recovery period as we have risen from level 3 to level 2. Now we're at the recovery period now. Looking at the NCR is having the worst case scenario now that there are cases that has been rising, and we're anticipating Omicron crashing again the economy of the Philippines. And now we are confident at Region 10 that we have reached the 70% herd immunity, and we are confident about that. But how are we seeing? I know in fact the AIDF is actually anticipating on this worst case scenario in case Omicron strikes again in the region. And how is our economy here in Region 10 as of now, 2022?
Thank you, Chai, ug salamat sa atong mga suki. First and foremost, I wish all of you had a very happy celebration of Christmas. It is my prayer that we will have a blessed, blissful, and
Yes.
more prosperous 2022. For 2022, Chai, we are actually anticipating that this is a better year than 2021.
I see, okay.
And why is that so? Because we will make it so.
Oh.
We will ensure that 2022 would be a better year for all of us.
Yes.
Even with the worst case scenario last year that we experienced when we had ECQ, MECQ, we were still very confident that our economy in 2021 will expand. And why is that? Because we really came from a low base in 2020. Now with the easing of the restrictions, when we changed paradigm, wala na itong mga kuligas na mga community quarantine. Ang ato karon is focus na mga lockdowns and alert level system. So with that kind of a change in paradigm, actually nag-ease yun ang mga restrictions and ang atong mga magpakatigayon, ang mga nagkalain-lain ng mga establishmento din sa atong rehiyon have been allowed to scale up their operations. Of course, Chai, ano po din ni Director, there were several establishments that permanently closed in 2020 and then 2021, but there were those na temporarily closed, nga nag-abli na. Apan ang atong pagkikalipay, Chai, is that even with the pandemic, Chai, nagpadayon ang pagsulod sa mga investments din sa region. Gitrack nato ang investments nga naitala dito sa Board of Investments, ang investments nga na-record sa DTI, even ang mga investments nga na-record po sa Securities and Exchange Commission, and even katong mga nag-abli ng mga cooperatives, nakita nato, Chai, that there were investments nga nangabot din, although not at the level sa pre-pandemic, but these investments generated jobs for people, such that this would be supported by a director, such that in the latest labor force survey atong October, ang atong record is actually 94.6% nga employment. So, near the pre-pandemic level. Kay the pre-pandemic level, it was around 95%. Near employment level naman yung tanong, so 94.6%. And we're hoping that by the time we have another round of the labor force survey karong April, karong January, wala pa lang na-release. We're hoping that it would be a much better picture. Makita masad nato, Chay, medyo vibrant na po yung dagan sa ekonomiya nato karon. But I just hope, Chay, that our people are afraid enough to maintain ang minimum public health standards. Because the truth is that the pandemic is still very much with us.
And we should not be complacent for that.
Oh yes, kana yun, Chay, atong ibalik-balik sa atong mga katawhan nga dili gyud magkumpiyansa because it's still very much with us. And ako ibalita ang nagtong kay basi wala pa ka ako kang awhagon ta mo nga atong mga suking tigpaminaw ug tigtan-aw ani nga programa, Chay. Nagpa-booster na ko ganihang buwan.
Yes!
So I hope nagpa-booster na ko na. So look at me. So I feel I'm okay. Wala pa po na lockdown. So I hope that you would muster the courage to have the booster, because it's not only a personal responsibility but also a civic duty.
Yes. RD, very much well said, and thank you for all of those good news that we have received. But furthermore, there are still a lot of issues risen. I also have received some complaints, and now that you have assured that the economy is rising and we're doing okay for the
the way it's going, China, the trend, it's really improving.
Yes.
Ang ato na lang pahalyo po is that walay katalagman nga moabot that would erode the hard-fought gains for the past years.
RD, they were also asking, will the economy is getting better here in the region, but the gasoline is very much high on its peak right now. Some of those this regular, like for example, the jeepney operators and this motorella driver operators, which are really suffering for this economy because with the minimum that they're receiving for each each day, they're still not thriving, and there's just a little survival for them to gain the momentum of even making their lives a little bit better. So as the economy, as you have said, assuring us that it's getting better and we're on the recovery, will the commodities slow down a little bit, and we'll be able to have a lower prices of the commodities now, especially with our we're seeing now that the imports of the onions have gone risen to 600 pesos. And that's affecting a lot of our SMEs now, concerning that they need this for their businesses, their small businesses. And how are we looking at that? Are we gaining, a little momentum on that and helping them out as we foresee that maybe the gasolines and the fuels will actually go down?
Actually, very volatile. No? You are right. The situation as far as fuel is concerned is rather really volatile. Over last year, nakakita man tayo in December nga na ang presyo sa gasolina pero misaka na po.
Yes.
It's not something that we can actually compare kay world prices mag-dictate sa movement sa fuel kay deregulated naman na siya nga industry. Of course, managi na siya domino effect kung kumusaka ang atong fuel, naapoy pagsaka sa uban nga presyo. But we are in a state of calamity karon. Region 10 is
And we were declared.
Yes, we were declared by the President as one of the regions under the state of calamity. And so therefore, ang atong DTI, ang atong local government units would be closely monitoring ang mga prices sa atong commodities. Kaya dapat walay pagsaka nga kanang dili makatarungan ng pagsaka sa atong presyo. So, karon kuan siya, karong Tuesday, ako lang balita sa atong mga katawhan, this week, NEDA has already convened the Rehabilitation and Recovery Committee under the RDRRMC, the Regional Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, because we are preparing the rehab and recovery plan for the Odette-affected areas. But at the same time, wala pa punta na human sa pag-implementar sa atong rehab and recovery plan for COVID-19. So you can just imagine, the balancing act that we have to do. It's not really a double whammy because while Odette really showed us her wrath, the impact is not as adverse as those experienced by the other regions. So in a way, we are still blessed. But
resilient.
Blessed because we are resilient and we have learned from the lessons of Sendong. No? So we have actually put in place some mitigation measures to ensure that we are more resilient this time. So next week, Chay, para matubag ng inyong pautana next week, magbalik ako ng meeting sa recovery cluster under the Northern Mindanao Task Force for COVID-19.
I see.
I just knew it. So, amo na pong itiyon tukiyon na po ni nga mga issues, no, kabahin sa kaning fuel is something that is already on the table. But we will also discuss in anticipation. Simba ko na, there's going to be a surge dinhi sa Omicron. Simba ko lang kasi it's already here sa ato sa Pilipinas. Mga paspunta nga, kompleto ang atong supply sa tambal, sa oxygen, no? Because we have been able to mitigate that katong June. Katong nag-ECQ dito, ipatawag nato to atong mga manufacturers. We are blessed na naadinhi sa ato ang mga manufacturers sa oxygen, no? So they have converted katong ilang industrial grade into a medical grade nga oxygen sa muto nga malata. So ang ato Chay is that while we are hoping for the best, we are preparing for the worst. Para dili ta masapnan nga natulog sa pansitan.
That's right.
That we always have to expect the worst, but we hope for the best, and we give it our best all the time.
Yes. I think we were discussing with RTD, with the worst case scenario in case if the Omicron actually, will really crash. And then it will be a multiple downfall again for the economy. And that I know that we're seeing that the NCRs now is a little, crashing. And then little by little they're actually giving strict implementations on the lockdowns and all that, and hopefully that we are not going to have that here in the region, because I'm very proud that the region has been listening to what the president has been crying for, which is being vaccinated, and that's the only thing I think that we could actually convince our constituents to actually get themselves vaccinated, because that's the only protection that we have, so that the economy will also stand, and we will rise, upon this overall adverse effect. Now, at this point in time, we are also anticipating for what we needed to prepare if things gets worse. Now, we have learned our lessons from the past few years that we were not really, no one was really prepared for the effect of the.
There was no template for the
There was no
pandemic.
template that we need to actually follow, and we were not really, not only us, but all over the world was not prepared for this. Now, we have learned our lesson, and at least we are able to understand how do we respond, you know, if these things happen. Now, we have asked the opinion of the daughter, because it's very important to also understand and know the issues at hand, especially with our workforce, because this is the structure of our economy, because they work and they actually give the service to the people, and that is why I have invited all for that. Now, the economy that we have right now, as you have mentioned, we are at one point now, we are recovering and we're doing good, and hopefully the momentum is going to be there, and we're going to rise in spite of the adversities that we have now. In the year 2022, how resilient are we? How prepared are we for the region? If in case this will be a strike two of the pandemic, and if there is a worse pandemic there is, and what are we suggesting, and what are we planning for as we face 2022?
Yes, I was actually mentioning RD to Ganina earlier. One of the priority programs of the department actually is to fast track the inspection
Yes.
of the compliance of the safety protocols.
Tama.
And this time, we were actually the labor inspectors under me were actually instructed by our regional director Albert Putin to make sure that all establishments are compliant with the safety protocol and impose a penalty if need be.
Right.
Dapat stricto rin tayo because COVID is actually airborne or droplets, so that distancing, face mask, the basic should be complied in the workplace. And if not complied, then we have to remind establishment, if again do not voluntarily comply, then the penalty should be imposed now.
Yes.
Okay, dugang siguro siya.
Yes.
I just like to add, we still have the safety seal certification, no? And the safety seal certification is a program of government nga atong i-inspect no ang mga establishments if they are complying with the minimum public health standards. So there are different safety seal certification certifying agencies. One of which is DOLE. Another one is the Department of Tourism for tourism-related establishments. And then ang DILG para sa LGUs, and at the same time, the LGU and DILG para sa mga government agencies. So we still continue that safety seal certification program, because if an office, an agency, or an establishment is a safety seal certified establishment, it is an assurance, no, sa mga katauhan that it is compliant with the minimum public health standards. And that's why we're meeting again, sir, kasi actually, we have prepared the COVID-19 Regional Recovery Program as far back as 2020, no? And we are going to do an update karon. Kay, syempre, nausab ba ang sitwasyon nga? Nalaog ba yung atong number of infections? And so, we have to recalibrate, and we have sharpen our strategies to make it more appropriate sa atong sitwasyon.
Right.
But knowing the surge in Manila, we have to anticipate na simple po ba sino niyang poabot dito. So we are going to study our strategies. That's why we're meeting again karong Martes.
That's right.
Kaya dili siya pwedeng igura bitaw pa mo respond.
Yeah.
It's not good planning. Good planning is really anticipating.
Correct.
No? Anticipating and preparing for the worst. So that's something that we're going to discuss. But there is a recovery program in place.
Right. So that is, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it from our regional director that we are actually now in a better place, better than before, better than the last 2 years. The worst case scenarios we have gone through, we've actually survived on that, and we actually have actually been resilient to it. Now, not only that we are surviving, we're also thriving with our economy now. And that is one good thing about the region. The region, as well as our anticipated, collective sharing of ideas from the AITF members, and of course, the departments that have been relentlessly working to have a common ground of the solution for this kind of pandemic. Now, I'm very confident that, of course, the region is actually going to be okay for 2022.
It's going to be okay because maningkamot me that we would be in a better place this year than last year. Because we have seen the worst last year. Maybe we have not seen the worst yet, but then again, we are going to make sure that we would be in a better place this year. Wala po nang among assurance sa katawhan that your government is working with you and for you. And there might have been missteps along the way because there's really no template for this pandemic previously. Pwede na itong paghugutan mo. Og example, it's a constant review, it's a constant recalibration and sharpening of strategies because we have had no experience on the pandemic previously. Kanina likod ang akong mapasalig sa atong katawhan, no? Kanindole, apil magyud siya. The private sector, the government is working together. In fact, I would like to believe atong 2020, nag-estimate kita din sa region, no? Sa NEDA, nag-estimate ni sa unsay mamahinong impact sa COVID sa atong ekonomiya. And we had kanang mga good case scenario, kapag may mga worst case scenario, kasi gusto na ito makita og unsa. So initially, atong 2020, atong tanaw na medyo mahinay na siguro ang dagat sa ekonomiya, pero medyo siya mukunhod. Kung mo kasi hinay ang dagat, mo expand ra gihapon, no? But eventually, nakita na mo agoy murag dili yun nga murag muhinay na, murag mukunhod yun ang dagat sa atong ekonomiya. And true enough, when we did the last estimation in 2020, we said that our economy would contract. When we say contract, kanang munaog yun siya ba than the previous level, it will contract between -4.7, that's the best case scenario, to -7%, which is the worst case scenario. And why is it important for us to estimate? It is important for us to estimate para we can put in place mitigation measures to stop or if not at least slow down that kind of adverse na kanang impact, no? And we also identified sa gid ang mga sectors nga mabagay because really trade, services, no? Hanap sila ang maigo. So this year, last year, 2022 naman tayo, last year when PSA released its estimate of our GRDP, ang atong ekonomiya nanaog by -5.2. So within the estimate yun siya. And we'd like to believe na wala kita niabot sa worst case scenario tungod kay we were able to put mitigation measures in place. And investments continue to come. A testament nga taas ang kumpiyansa sa atong ekonomiya. So this is something that we want to preserve, no? As I've mentioned kanina, the hard-fought gains over the past 2 years. So, kung niya ang atong pangalyo po sa katawhan nga, this has not been easy for all of us. So I hope na dili bitaw nato siya isaya-saya ang atong gains. And mo yan yung hangyo, please continue to follow the minimum public health standards so that we can truly have a better year this year.
So this has been very fruitful, of course, conversation with us right now discussing about the economy's situation right now. So we're about to close this program, and of course we would like to ask Sir Jade to give us your message before we end.
Yes, thank you for the invitation on behalf of RD Albert. Ma'am, he's supposed to come in, but nagpa-vaccine yan. Nagpa-booster. I have a booster na yesterday actually. Again, I'm calling actually the attention of all workers and of course management. Please comply with the IATF Resolution 1480, meaning directing all workers who are working on site to be vaccinated. Do not go to the option of having RT-PCR so that you can enter or have yourself with a medical certificate so that you'll be accepted.
Very expensive.
Vaccination.
Very expensive to go to work.
So that your employment will be preserved. Of course, economy will, as mentioned by RDFA, will pick up so that your employment will be insured. So again,
Yes, thank you, Mr.
have
JB.
yourself vaccinated.
Yes,
All workers.
okay. Last reminder from our Regional Director of NEDA 10.
This year is going to be a very busy year for all of us because this is an election year. So
Yes.
while we're battling COVID and while we are addressing the concerns of those affected by Typhoon Odette, we're also busy preparing for a transition year. Kay
Yes.
bagong presidente, it means that we will be preparing our successor plan.
Correct.
So we will be preparing for RDP, Regional Development Plan 2023 to 2028. And let me assure you that we have learned so many lessons from the pandemic and from Typhoon Odette. And while we are better prepared sa Typhoon Odette because of our experience sa Sendong, it is really our intent to build a more resilient community. And so, ang amo sa NEDA, it is our prayer that all of us will have sustained protection and good health. So have a better year, everyone. Have a better 2020.
Thank you very much, Regional Director for NEDA 10, RDFA Caribbean, of course, our RTD, Regional Technical Director of the DOLE 10, JB Basal is here with us. Thank you very much. On behalf of my network, Jade TV, I would like to thank everyone who has been here with us for the whole hour, and thank you very much for supporting all of us, our programs and our events. And of course, we would like to invite all of you again for the next show. That is the next Saturday. That's between 9 to 10 in the morning under Jade TV Network. Of course, this has been your host, Chyrel Cariaga, for the Chyrel Cariaga Show. That sounds like corruption, and of course, do not ask for what the government can do for you, but always ask what you can do for the government. Let's help rise again to a better future in 2022. Thank you very much for watching.